So that means the final score from Marty and Jaden versus Books versus Shadows of Silence is...
Today we're doing a book review. It's our first one. It's Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell.
So we started with like the shortest book you could possibly start with. It's
not even easy.
It's not even a real book. It's a part of another group of books.
What do they call it? A telenovela?
Arcanum. It's just a regular novella.
Oh, wait, you're right. No tele, no TV, right?
But it's in the combination of books that Brandon Sanderson wrote.
Yeah.
Did he write it by itself, or did he write it as part of this like hodgepodge Arcanum Unbounded?
Yeah, so we read it out of Arcanum Unbound, but I think from what I understand, he wrote this as part of a writing group, and I think he
like
writes
a book club.
I think he was like a group that he was invited. It wasn't a book club, but I think
secret novelists group. The Illuminati.
Yeah, the Illuminati. No, I think at the end of this, he writes in the postscript that he was George R.R. Martin.
The Game of Thrones guy.
The Game of Thrones guy. I'm proud you know that.
Well,
he didn't just look that up 3 minutes before the podcast start.
You know, gotta always be ready for those moments in your life. That's a lesson.
There you go. Gotta be ready.
Yeah, so he's the Game of Thrones guy.
Yes.
Apparently.
And he's huge because he did the Game of Thrones and everybody knows the Game of Thrones. And so he got invited to this writing, pretty much a writing
Brandon
group.
Sanderson got invited to George R.R. Martin's secret book club.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know what they call it.
But it seemed like he did write about it in Arcanum about it. And he was excited about it. He's like, no way I get to write with these guys.
Yes, and he wrote it for the Cosmere. He's like, I'm going to set this in the Cosmere. And it was a specific topic. I think he was, I don't know if the whole writing group was doing this or if it was just him. He was trying to write a strong female lead in these books.
Yes. But he was very specific about how he wanted to write his female lead.
Yes.
He didn't want it to just be like, just your typical femme fatale or like just a male one or just as female, just write him as a female.
Exactly.
He really wanted to be more in line with what a female hero would be like. I think that's cool.
Which is, the book does a great job with it. I thought it was,
as far as I can tell. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I always get feedback from my wife. I'm like, he's not very great about writing women into the story. I'm like, I thought he did awesome.
It's classic.
I guess it's...
Well, she's probably said that after reading the Mistborn series,
Yeah,
right?
she did.
Did she say he's gotten better?
Vin's not as feminine as I would have expected. And I'm like, I thought she was great.
That's hilarious.
It's probably...
Did she say he's gotten better with The Way of Kings? I know she's reading that right now, too.
Yes. I think also there's an element of that she's listening to it, and there's like the audio of being read by a woman versus being read by a man.
Yeah,
that makes a big difference. I don't know if that affects it significantly or if it's also how he wrote it, but I think there's an element to that. I think there's an element to it's read by a woman, so it's read with that intonation and all that. It's just different enough. So anyway, maybe that's why I pay more attention to the man scenes in Way of Kings. I don't know. But this one was really good. And it was a strong female lead.
Yes. And so this takes place in, it looks like the Threnodite system.
Yes.
And so part of the Cosmere, lots of different systems. And basically in this story, it's just a super short story. In my mind, it's like the perfect Halloween story. We should have done this on Halloween.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like that.
But it just has these ghosts that are evil ghosts called shades that haunt them day and night. I thought that was fascinating that they're around all the time.
But the shades follow specific rules.
Yes.
Which is interesting because Brandon has a very much structured... Brandon. Yeah, we're pals.
Yeah. We know.
Brandon and I.
First name basis.
The way he writes his systems are a little bit more like this is the rules that everyone plays within. Like this is how the magic works. This is how all these things like there's specifics to how he writes his stories. I think it's really cool. So the shades follow these specific rules like a drop of blood will basically make them kill you.
Yeah.
And like fast movement at night. So they very much don't like these, like the anger, the blood. Like they said a nosebleed wouldn't do anything, but if you like injure someone and draw blood in anger, they'll enrage.
Yeah, it has to be blood drawn by someone else on purpose, maybe.
Yeah, it has to be on purpose. No, they said with anger, with malice or something like that. So then these shades, there's also other things, like if you run too fast at night, like they'll come after you.
And they don't like fire.
They don't like starting fire. They're okay with fire, but you can't start a fire.
Oh, that was the part I was like, I kind of missed because I was going through it quick.
Fire is fine, but starting a fire is the problem.
Because they said it was fine if they carry a torch.
Yes, but it has to be lit by someone else. And they have like these people that come through the towns as fire starters that have fire that you can get your fire from.
This guy is incredible writing these books.
Her Silence is the main character.
Yeah.
Her grandma kind of started this a descendancy of intense women.
Yeah.
Because she raised her daughter to be really intense with Silence, who's then raising her daughter to be intense and just be these crazy bounty hunters who are just awesome and super
What are they
capable.
called? Silence 4...
4 Scouts.
4 Scout.
Yep.
Very cool.
So what she really does is she collects bounties by killing people. And of course that's lucrative, I guess, because bounties are expensive, but also because it's so difficult to kill someone, because these shades will kill you if you kill someone else. So they like protect almost the harmony of things. And everyone's scared of the shades. They all live indoors. And she owns this tavern-like thing.
Yeah,
A
in the
way
middle of the
stop,
woods, surrounded by silver.
And the silver is what stops the shades.
Yeah.
That was
It is.
unclear to me. Explain that.
Yeah, well, so that's all I understood, right? Is that they can't touch silver or go over it or anything like this, which is a theme in
Like
the
if
Cosmere,
if
right?
it's on the ground, they can't pass it.
Yeah, they can't pass it. Like, they can't float over it or whatever. Just, you can't get...
I assume they
can't
float
touch it.
like ghosts.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so, and like, that's what I realized too, is that silver seems to be a theme out of like all the Cosmere books. Have you realized
really?
like that?
I haven't noticed that.
Oh yeah, there's silver in, I can't remember.
I mean, it's definitely in Mistborn.
It is it's in
Obvious.
Mistborn, and they get into it later in the Way of Kings, so that silver does certain things. I'm like totally blanking on the specifics of it, but silver is super important. It's very important in Second Age of Mistborn, which you haven't read yet.
I
but
will.
We'll get there.
I will get there.
Yeah, once we
But
get
that's
there.
a book review for another day.
It is. Once we get there, you'll understand a little bit more. But I thought that was fascinating, that silver plays a huge role across the Cosmere, and even here. So it stops them, and then so she goes through and has this experience where she's chasing down someone who
There's
is
a bounty.
murderer.
There's a
bounty
bounty of some
on him.
sort. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything, of course, goes wrong, and
Yep.
they have to escape with their lives by the end. And she's able to get the bounty, and they're able to all go home. So I guess
she has the evil guy who's trying to sue her for her town. She can't. She has to like get the money for him to save her family. And I was like, there's the element of she has to get this done for the bounty. It's not just for the money. It's for survival. So and all of this happens in like a 2-hour book.
Yeah, it's
on
amazing.
Audible.
As we're talking about this, I'm like, holy crap.
A lot of
There's
stuff.
a lot of stuff.
What's hilarious is you can get Way of Kings that takes place over like 56 hours, and then an entire book with its own magic system and everything in 2.
Yeah.
That's some impressive skill sets for an author.
Telenovela in 2 hours.
Exactly.
Just a novella.
Just novella.
Just
What-
a novella.
So we have to rate this because this is a book review or a book judging, as we
Yeah.
might say.
So what did you like about... Okay, first of all, I know you're not a fan of like horror, scary movies.
No, absolutely not.
I did not tell you that this was that kind of theme before it started.
You didn't.
Yeah,
That's
what did
true.
you think as you're starting? Like, what did Marty get me into?
I don't like scary movies. I don't like scary stories. I'm just not interested. There's just
Yeah.
no element of... I'm not... Just not.
He
Not
won't
gonna
even do
touch it.
Stranger Things. I've tried.
Even my wife has watched Stranger Things and she loves it. And I'm like, I don't see the appeal. It's not my thing. But anyway, I do go for this story specifically because I really liked her motivations and like how sneaky she had to be. I like that she wasn't just going out and killing people.
Yep.
Like, there was that element. I was like, that's kind of gruesome.
Oh,
Especially
it is
the
kind of really
descriptions
gruesome
How
in
she
some-
kills people is pretty intense.
I cringed a few times, like, ooh.
But I think the fact that like it's so rules based, like she had to be so sneaky and creative, like how she did things. She had like the bags and the hammer and like all the ways that she did her thing. I thought that was really cool, and especially at the end, the fact that she had this whole like trap planned, and she's like, "Well, I wasn't actually opening the pantry." Boom, kills him. Like, that was so cool.
The soul of her grandmother flies out
that
and
was
kills him.
Wild.
Oh,
that was
my
just insane. But I think the reveal there was cool. The build-up was cool. I thought it was a well-written story, even though it was a little horror for me.
Yes, I agree. The whole thing was just so fascinating. I love how the story even starts, too. And Sanderson mentions this in the postscript, how they didn't they thought that I should take out the beginning because it started slow. But honestly, I love the beginning. The beginning, they just have that guy talking in the a tavern, telling stories about the silver fox, or what did they call her? I can't remember.
The white fox?
The white fox. Probably not the silver fox.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do think, though,
But-
that it helps to build the anticipation of the
It
legend.
does, and then
right?
it flips to her perspective. You're like, oh, it's her
Yep.
that it does it, and just all the rules of it all that we talked about earlier. I just thought it was so fascinating, and I just love the world building that he does so quickly. Just you're able to see like these are creepy, dark creatures that you would normally see
Yep.
in other creepy stories.
I
but
think-
they're around in the day too, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And anyways,
It's
all of it was
interesting.
just
It's interesting.
different than anything I've ever seen.
I don't think it gets full points from me, at least. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's the horror element of it. Maybe. But it's also because like there's a certain, I think, Cosmere-ness lacking from it.
Interesting.
Like, I just didn't feel like there was... It seems like regular people who are trying to live inside of a weird world.
Yeah.
Instead of regular Brandon Sanderson, which is like super people trying to like navigate against like politics and all these things. Whereas this was like a bunch of folks living in a tavern with normal folk problems. They're just trying to find food, and they have these shades that live everywhere. It's kind of annoying.
For some reason, that whole idea was so fascinating to me that they were just normal people. Like, what would it be like to live in a civilization like that? That would be terrifying.
That's true. You can put yourself into it a little bit more. I think it loses points for me because it feels like it lacks that.
You need some more superheroes in it?
Maybe more superheroes. I don't know. Maybe just more legend, more magic, more... I think that's just a part of the Cosmere that I really like.
Yeah.
The fact that everyone has like some sort of, whether it's a legend or a capability, all of his books kind of revolve around that, except the short story doesn't.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, with that, it's just like he does mention that this is a world he'll come back to.
Yes, the Threnodite system, yes.
Which
and
is
the intro was
to me.
really cool. They talk about the shards. They talk about the shard of ambition. They talk about the shards of another world where like no one knows what's going on, but everyone dies when they go there. Like, they give you so much interesting like preamble to this story, and then the story is about like something completely different. I was like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, to me, I hear that like beginning, that preamble, so to say, of this book, and then just hear about this like, wow, these poor people live in this messed up world because of this fight that has happened between two shards or something like that.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And it's fascinating to me. I'm gonna start throwing out ratings here.
Do it.
I would give this one. Oh man, now I'm like, everyone says say 8. The classic Brian Regan. But I would honestly, I want to give it an 8, maybe an 8.5
out of 10.
Out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 7.
A 7?
Yep.
7's pretty like.
No, this isn't an average should be a 10 kind of a situation. 5 is average. And average for Brandon Sanderson is high.
I would say that I don't read. I tried. Okay, when I go to Goodreads and there's a book that's rated,
but they rate out of 5.
I know, dude. That's the worst. Well, that's a whole other thing. I was like, you can't give half ratings on Goodreads. You kidding me?
Oh, really?
That's the worst.
Oh,
I can't believe it. Dude, that's what I'm saying. It's a whole other thing. But I think I rarely read books that are rated less than a 4-star on Goodreads, because for me, most of the time people are right, and I just can't get through books that are that low.
So your Uber comes and he's at 3.5 stars, and you're like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yes. So in other words, if you go 3.5, I could probably handle. So
that's
in other
7.
words, yes. So that is probably the lowest end. So that's why most of my books that I read will probably average between like a 7 and an 8, or a 7 and a 10.
Yeah.
Because
I'm holding my 7
8.
for that exact reason. It was good enough that I got
below
through it,
average for you.
But yeah, I would say below average for Brandon Sanderson. For me, again, recognize the fact that I can't abide horror thriller movies.
Yes.
So like that element of it made it really hard for me to like stick with the story the whole way.
So it did bother you, the horror side of it.
It did bother me.
Yeah.
It's still redeemed in the fact that it's like rated a 7. It's on the good side of 5.
Yes. But it's on the lower end of like
it's on
the
the
books.
lower end. Yeah. There were things that I wish it still had in it.
Is it just out of Sanderson books that you've read, or
I'll tell you what would have made this book an 8.
Okay,
right?
tell me. That's a better way.
Or it would have made it maybe a 9 if by the end of the book, what was her daughter's name? I'm putting you on the spot. Her daughter, named daughter.
Yeah.
If her daughter had like somehow scared or killed a shade in some mysterious way with no weapon. Like I need the magic in there. And I feel like that could have been such an interesting mystery to end it on. I don't feel like it ended with any real mystery. It ended so complete. Yeah, conclusively.
Well, it's because it was a full telenovela.
Again. But I don't know. Some sort of like, oh man, like I wasn't expecting the crazy shade and the stuff, like her to come out. That was cool.
It was a legend that was actually real. Like
great surprise. But I do think if there had been some nuance to like she had grown up as a Force Scout and then her daughter had this like ability, I think that would have been cool. That would have made it a 9 for me.
Okay, a 9. That went from an 8 to a 9 after that.
8.5.
Okay, ooh, changing.
I think it would have been great. I think that would have been so cool to end it that way. But again, I am not an author. I would be a terrible author. So I don't think you should change anything. I'm just saying for my personal tastes, that's something I would like to see.
I would probably give it an 8. This was another one of those stories where I was like, Malia, this was fantastic. It's only 2 hours long. It's Halloween. We're listening to this one.
What did she think?
I think she liked it. I think she did. I can't remember. It was actually like 3 years ago when I did that for her.
So that means the final score from Marty and Jaden versus books versus
books.
Shadows of Silence
Versus Shadows of Silence
is 7.5.
Because we're averaging it.
We have to average it.
Okay, fine. I'll give it to you.
It's a 7.5. If you choose to round up, it's an 8. If you choose to truncate, it's a 7.
Deal. Take it or leave it.
I think 7.5 is our final rating for it. It was good, and it was that's a solid C+.
Whoa,
that makes it sound worse.
Yeah, that makes it sound way worse. I'm not gonna go into the letter rating there. I'm just gonna leave that at a
letter ratings are the worst. Then
yeah.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
I know, right? You could get like a 50%, which is in your mind average. And that's
an F.
Yeah, you're failing.
That's a low F.
Yeah. It's
Who
like not even
invented that?
You're not even close.
That's awful.
Yeah, terrible. But I think we'll go more into these books in the future, more Arcanum Unbounded.
Yep,
so look forward
absolutely.
to that in the future. Comment and let us know, what would you rate this book? Did
Yes.
you think it was as good as an 8? Did you think it was a 10? Did you think it was a 5? Let us know. We want to hear. We love the comments.
That's my favorite thing. I love seeing new comments pop up. So if you just want to say hi in a comment, I'm all about that. I will respond to you and say hi right back.
We will jam that love button.
Absolutely. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and see you later.